This week's episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast is driven by Cornerstone Gundog Academy. CGA is the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos that includes everything you need to take a 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit cornerstoneGundogAcademy.com to sign up for their free preview module and begin your training journey today. Cornerstone Gundog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast, episode 147. This week on the show, we're talking preseason. The season's right around the corner, so we're going to go through our checklist to make sure you're doing what you need to do to be ready for the season to kick off. All right, welcome to this episode 147 of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast. I'm your host, Josh Palm, and we are your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. This week brought to you by Gunner Kennels. Engineered for your dog, designed for travel, and built for your peace of mind, the G1 Kennel has set a new industry standard and put Gunner in a category all its own. Gunner Kennels was started to protect your pet, and it continues to be at the center of everything they do. They're dedicated to building the best and safest pet travel crate on the market because man's best friend deserves man's best kennel. Check out their G1 series of kennels and accessories at gunnerkennels.com. Joining me this week, as he always does, Mr. Dan Hrushka. Dan, what's up, man?
Dude, I got to tell you, last Monday, I was a little nervous when I saw the headline of the episode, Story Time with Uncle Joe. I really thought that there would have been some Dan bashing or some childhood stories. I really didn't know what to expect, but no, I was definitely laughing the entire episide. But yeah, good work, and it's always fun having him on. He's a character, no doubt.
Yeah, that was fun. It was I always enjoy doing the episodes in person with somebody, right? Because we do so many over the remote. It's always fun to be able to be in the same room with somebody. It makes life a lot easier. So definitely enjoyed that. And I'll actually we'll be heading up to see Joe again this next coming weekend for another tournament. So
nice.
See him here in the near future.
Does the Bat Boy go with you?
Yep. The Bat Boy is going to go with me because we've got a local team here from Virginia that will be playing in the Little League World Series. So they're local to us. They're in our district. They're like literally 10 minutes down the road, the town of South Riding. So Virginia hasn't sent a team to the Little League World Series in I think it's 25 years-ish or something like that. And we've never sent anyone from our district, which is basically our district consists of Loudoun County, where I live. So I think I'm going to take my son up to Williamsport on Thursday, watch them play their first game just to say we were there. And then Friday we'll head over to see your brother, and we'll coach another weekend with the Bombers. So
nice. Awesome.
Lots of baseball ahead, and that's certainly taken up a bunch of my time. But, it's all good. But, it definitely starting to feel like fall a little bit. The temperatures are dropping down in getting cooler in the evening, definitely more like campfire type weather. So it's got my mind shifting towards the season here, kind of getting geared up for the preseason, which was kind of why we thought this might be a good week to talk a little bit through some, just sort of some general checklist stuff. If you're not doing, it's probably stuff that a lot of people are doing most of, if not all of, but it might be something where maybe there's one of these things that we hit that you're not doing or you forgot about or something like that. So we'll just kind of talking through that to make sure everyone's squared away for the opening of the season and ready to get it going. But before we get too far into that, I do want to just take a minute to thank 737 Duck and Goose Calls, their original design, select grade components, superior sound, and unparalleled service. 737 takes exceptional pride in producing the finest quality, best built premium calls in the market today. They're made here in America and offered only direct to consumers through their website. Shipping in the U.S. is always free, and international orders are also now accepted online. 20-day money-back guarantee and a lifetime warranty accompanies every call purchased. 737 Duck Calls lead the flock. Also, Adrenaline. Bird hunting made quick, clean, and humane. The Finisher is the alternative to the out-of-date technique that can damage or destroy your trophy bird. Finisher has been tested in the field and continues to hold true to its name. Finisher can be easily worn on your lanyard, vest, or jacket. Check them out at adrenaline.com to get yours today. And also, finally, thank you to Old Town. Since 1898, Old Town has been building the most advanced quality watercraft products to give you the very best experience on the water. Whether you're hunting, fishing, or enjoying a relaxing paddle on the lake, there's for every type of adventurer. If you haven't seen it yet, check out their new grab and go watercraft designed to function as your boat, blind, and retriever. The easy to conceal 11-foot 9-inch, 56-pound solo sportsman. It's the ideal craft for those in search of stable, lightweight craft. It's easy to paddle, even easier to transport or stash. Designed with the hunter and the angler in mind, the solo sportsman is equipped with thoughtful shell tackle and tool storage, comfortable adjustable seats, foot braces, and accessory track and rod holders. Head over to oldtowncanoe.com/solo sportsman to check it out today. All right, Dan, one thing I do want to touch on, I like to kind of check the magazines and all that stuff. And definitely this is the time of year when Max and Cabela/Bass Pro and everybody's sending out their waterfowl catalogs, but also you start to get if you're subscribed to Wildfowl and all those magazines, they start to pick up in delivery as well this time of year. And I really like to kind of thumb through those and see what they've got going on. And in the most recent issue, there was a couple things that kind of caught my eye that I wanted to share. The first one is that basically the Interior Secretary has plans to announce to open as many as 1.4 million additional acres of national wild refuge land for hunting and fishing. This is going to take place over 74 refuges that are currently either closed or partially closed to hunting. And he also wants to streamline the rules to be more in line with state regulations to reduce confusion. So, we've talked a lot about these kinds of things, and that is one thing that makes waterfowl hunting tough, is that the rules vary so much from place to place and state to state and all that kind of stuff. I really like seeing the fact that they're trying to streamline those with the refuge that's in that state, so that's a little more consistent for hunters and a little easier to understand. So I thought that was a pretty cool idea, and obviously a big fan of seeing more opportunities to get access to public hunting ground.
Yeah, I think that's huge, especially for waterfowl. And does it say like how many refuges? I know you said 1.4 million acres, but
it's going to take place across 74 different ones.
74, cool. So hopefully they're spread out enough to where people can really take advantage of them.
Yeah, more opportunity.
But yeah, streamlining all the actual regs, that would be very nice.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that came up here right below this in this article was an idea here. Canada makes hunting easier. And basically, it's saying that Canadian hunters will no longer be required to tag individual ducks and geese if a new rule proposed by the Canadian Wildlife Service is adopted. Instead, hunters can tag an entire batch of birds with one label, and this rule is meant to reduce the regulatory burden on resident and non-resident hunters. And hunters can also gift birds to food banks or other charity organizations. And the third rule changes the possession limit. Birds that are cleaned and frozen or otherwise preserved no longer count towards the possession limit. However, hunters bringing ducks and geese back into the U.S. still have to keep species and sex identification attached. So, again,
nice.
Making things easier and less burdensome on the hunter is while still accomplishing the legal, the intent of the law. I think is always is good, and that's a win for hunters. So right, just so I'm clear on that.
Currently, do they have to individually tag birds, or was that saying if something is passed?
It says individually. It implies that if this rule is adopted, that they will no longer be required to attach.
Okay.
Each individual bird. You can do it by an entire batch, which I assume would be like your limit, right?
Right.
Would be what I.
And then processed birds for consumption are no longer part of the possession limit.
That's what it says. If they are cleaned and frozen or otherwise preserved, no longer count towards the possession limit.
I think that's huge too, because people that really count on that meat, can go out and stock up or whatever they need to do. So that's good. They can make it through winter. Yeah.
And then the last one I wanted to just touch on. This was a really just a couple pages here in Wildfowl I found really interesting. A lot of people have had questions about what the season's going to be like this year with the wet spring and all that kind of stuff. And this little blurb here is called "Rain Doesn't Make Corn," and basically it says that the prolonged winter with one of the wettest springs in decades set the nationwide farming back, and people are wondering sort of what kind of impact that'll have on the fall flights. And it says here that by mid-May, only 49% of the crop was in the ground, according to the USDA. Illinois was 65% behind the 5-year average, and Indiana was an astounding 73% behind. So basically, they're saying that they're guessing that many flooded corn impoundments from last year will be moist soil units this season, and they're kind of speculating that it'll be interesting to see how this impacts the duck migration and how long they stick around in those particular areas if there's not as much crop planted.
Did it give any other states or just those states?
That's just it. That was all it had.
Nice. Yeah. And I guess the good thing, I mean, when it comes down to it, those aren't really states for breeding ground. So hopefully there is
well, I think that's why
I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, I think that's why they highlight those areas because, with all the talk about flooded impoundments and crops and all these things keeping birds from pushing down, if this wet winter prohibited as many people from getting their crops in the ground as that would indicate, will we see a more progressed migration this year if there's not as much food in those transient areas to hold them there, and will they continue to push south?
Right.
Shall be interesting
to
see. So anyway, thought those were good points that I wanted to hit on.
Yeah, I appreciate those. And like, I was telling you before we got on here, but went to the local lake and, we feed the fish and stuff. It's just something in the evening to take the kids and get energy out. It was the most amount of mallards that I've ever seen on Pymatuning since I've been around this area, which I've been here since I was 2. So the last 33 years, the entire lake was ducks. And I've never seen that. And it just so happens to be on the year when our limit is 2. So hopefully it's a sign of the times to come, and hopefully something else, turned and is going right in the right direction. But yeah, it was pretty amazing to see. I took some videos of it, and man, it was just beautiful. It was a perfect evening.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely starting to feel fallish. We're getting a little break in the heat here, and evenings are comfortable or more comfortable and stuff like that. So it's cool to get out and see some ducks. It's awesome.
Yeah, man, for sure. Hey, I want to say something before we get into all this.
Okay.
People are listening today. 5-year anniversary, man.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Seriously, what do you think about the time that has elapsed behind the mic?
I when I look back on it, like it's funny because that 5 years, it's been sort of a roller coaster, right? Like we've been going with weekly releases here for the last
2 years,
good while. But I mean, there was a period of time where we were kind of on the monthly schedule, if not even further. So it's cool that we've been able to make it work for this long, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't really know. I don't know. I mean, I just it's just another. It's just kind of like another. I'm ready to start hunting again. Like kind of feel.
Yep. Another episode. If you are listening, we obviously have advertisements and whatnot, and it was a last minute idea, but I think it was Thursday of last week. I started sending a couple of texts out to people, and we're going to do a 5-year anniversary giveaway. So a lot of the advertising companies that support the show and support all the people that listen to us, they are going to be chucking in some gear, and we will be probably running that. I'm thinking maybe we'll set it up on Instagram or something like that. But anyway, it'll be coming down the pipe for everyone to join, and we'll have a few winners. So yeah, good stuff.
I always love being able to give stuff away, and that's probably one of the biggest benefits that we've been able to have. With forming relationships with so many companies, is that we've been able to put really quality product in the hands of a ton of our listeners, and that was kind of one of the promises that we made as part of that deal. And obviously we've given a bunch of stuff away through our listeners group. We gave a bunch of stuff away for the 100th episode celebration. So this will just be another opportunity to give some stuff away, which is cool. So
yep. And yeah, definitely thank you to all the companies participating. And, they enjoy the content and they enjoy the listeners. So it seems like a full circle. Everyone appreciates it and they show the support. So
yep.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Awesome stuff, man. All right, let's shift gears here a little bit and start talking that preseason checklist because, a lot of us, in my mind, I have probably like a handful of things that I like to do as the preseason, and there's like a handful of things that I really don't like to do, and I tend to put those things off / sometimes forget about them because I don't want to do them. Mm-hmm. So let's just kind of work through that list. And I think a lot of guys probably are doing most of this stuff, but maybe there's one or two things that you're not doing, or maybe there's one or two things that we don't mention on this list that you are doing, and you can hit us up and let us know, what that is. So, all right, Dan, I'm gonna let you steer this one. Tell me where we're going with this.
All right, we'll get started. And no real specific order here, but I wanted to start out with if you're planning your hunts or planning to hunt, things that you should do, thinking about putting in those vacation days, even though it's difficult because you're checking the weather, checking your spots, whatever you may be doing. But if you are trying to do something, especially out of state, that needs to get taken care of. If you're renting a car, if you're getting a flight, whatever it may be, if you're booking an outfitter, you might be too late if you're going to a big name because they're probably booked. But making sure all that stuff is in order, you definitely need to start thinking about that because really, I mean, we're 3 weeks away from the opener, and depending, so 7 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks away from duck opener, and a lot of states if you don't have early season. So that needs to get taken care of ASAP.
Yeah, I think if you're planning an out of state hunt and you're not like pretty squared away by this point, you're probably behind the 8 ball, and you should probably you're probably pressing your luck a little bit. But what I would say with this one for me is, and I'm sure everyone's similar. You got other things in life that you're juggling, right? I'll just use me an example. My son's playing soccer this fall. He's playing travel baseball, which I coach. So, I got work obligations. So I'm more planning those trips around and trying to find those pockets of when I'm going to have availability to go to get some hunts in. Unfortunately, I've been less able to focus on the early season because, those sports and stuff that kind of, keep me busy on the weekends and stuff, they don't really stop until the first part of November. So it's really hard to sort of find those pockets of time when I'm going to be able to hunt, and sort of managing that schedule is really important for me. So I have to know when those windows are going to be so that I can be prepared to take advantage of those, because I don't want to be kind of caught not paying attention and miss an opportunity when they may be a little bit limited here in the beginning of the season just because of, life getting in the way. So knowing what you got going on and what you got to plan, what you got to coordinate, super important here, while you have time before you're really kind of into it. So I think that's definitely a good one.
Yeah. And one thing that I never even thought of, but, we're going to Canada in October, and we're going up there with Ben Webster. And, he said, whatever you do, make sure you figure out the airport you're going to, even if you don't get your flight, and make sure you book a vehicle, because so many people go up there hunting, they fly in, they take all the trucks, and you don't want to be stuck with a car, going down some of those back roads. And there's a lot of, when you start talking about oil workers and stuff like that. And so even through the Dakotas, make sure you have that planned out. Yep. Get on it if you're not on it.
No doubt. What's next?
I'd go with calling.
Okay. Tell me about it.
So get the calls out, dust them off. A little late again, if you're trying to send it somewhere to get tuned. I'm sure a lot of companies will hurry up and get those back to you, but make sure that, the reads are in good shape. Make sure your calling is up to par, or you're practicing. I don't think that you can overdo that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good time of year to, bring them in the truck with you whenever you get a few minutes. For me, it's usually like a stoplight or something. I'll just pull it out, hit a couple honks. And I honestly try to simulate like a real hunting scenario. So I'll drive for 5-10 minutes, not pick them up. And then I'll be like, okay, the next light, I'm going to pretend like there's a flock show up, and I got to, I put the effort to make it quality from that start, right? that first noise, honk, whatever, sounds good and kind of is crisp, and kind of work it. For me in the early season, this time of year, I'm not worried about like, my best attempt at a contest routine or anything like that, because I don't call like that in the early season. So I'm just trying to like revisit the fundamentals, get good, comfortable, short, things that are the type of calling sequences that I'm going to work when I'm working local resident geese kind of situations. So, just getting back comfortable. And, another good thing to do is if you get time, you get the opportunity, lay down. If you're going to be hunting out of like layout blinds and stuff, take that opportunity to lay down on your back and try to make a few calls. Cause if you haven't done that in a while, it can be a little bit more challenging. Or if this is your first time going to be doing it, it's not the same with whether you're sitting at the steering wheel of your truck or you're standing up in your living room or whatever. So make sure you get yourself in that hunting position and make sure you're still good to go on the call.
Yeah, I think that's a huge adjustment that people don't think about. When you're laying down and you have your head on a rest, essentially your chin is in your chest, right? Your chin's tucked into your neck, just the angle of your body laying there. So it's different than, blowing up to the sky or whatever you might be doing when you're practicing. They're just straight upright. So
yep.
That's a good point.
Yep.
And right off of that, I'll piggyback right off of you and talking about layouts and or other types of blinds. And I will say this one from personal experience. A couple years ago, got my layout blind out and laid in it, and one of the bars broke back behind my head. So essentially, yeah. I was at a 45-degree angle because it wouldn't hold it up. So get those out and check them, because if you need to buy a new blind, you can get it in time. 2, if you need to do repairs, you're not staying up till 2 a.m. and doing that the night before the opener instead of getting some sleep when you have to get up at 3 or 4 anyways.
Yeah, and another critical thing for your blinds this time of year is if you haven't got mud or paint, spray paint on them to take the shine off, if you've got a new blind over the off season, or you're old, you just need to touch them up or whatever it is, this is the time to get that stuff knocked out and done with. So definitely don't forget those ones.
And then if you have stationary blinds and whatever cover you might have on those, it's time to get in there, get the spiders out, get the snakes out, send the eviction notice, bees nest. You don't want to be climbing in those in the morning and not get to hunt because you're getting stung in your face.
Yep.
So definitely one to not overlook, because that can be a big pain in the butt. All right.
What's next?
We'll keep going. Things to get you to the hunt. How about boats, motors, blinds? Definitely, if you're not out on your boat all summer, out on lake or whatever you're doing, if it's been sitting, definitely time to get it tuned up. If you do it yourself or take it somewhere to get serviced, get that taken care of. They're usually hunting season time. They start putting boats away. But, it's still early. It's still hot in a lot of areas. So get it there, get it serviced, get ready to not be stranded in the middle of a river or lake.
Yeah, I think a big one here is if you're going to be running a boat this hunting season, this is a great time to dig out all your life jackets that you're going to use, dig out the safety equipment, the air horn, whatever you need to take with you to ensure your safety. Double check that stuff. Make sure a mouse hasn't got in there and chewed up your life jackets, and just those sort of things. Make sure that's all in good working functional order, because once the season gets going and stuff, that's a lot of guys aren't checking that stuff regularly, right? We're worried about hunting and and all that kind of stuff. So before you get into that kind of the faster pace, sort of hustle and bustle of trying to get to where you're going and getting on birds, take the time here before you get to going too far. Just double check all that stuff and make sure it's squared away, and that you're going to be good and safe, for the season coming up.
And blinds, we have a lot of people that hunt out of kayaks and canoes, and they're always talking about, do-it-yourself blinds, and you might build it, you might have it on your craft while you're at home, but take that out in the water, because you don't know how, if it looks good in your garage and then you put it in the water and you have severe drag when you're going, you might want to make some adjustments. So don't do that, in the dark. Don't figure that out in the dark while you're trying to get to your duck hole and it's just, stuff's falling off, or, you just can't get to where you're going.
Another thing with that too is that you need to understand how your craft is going to handle now with that extra weight of a blind. Weight. Yeah. When you're in the water, preferably not for the first time when you're going out there with like decoys and whatever, so just make sure you're really comfortable with whatever it is that you're going to be using on the water, and that you feel safe and that you're confident in your ability to handle it.
Yep. And load it down. Even if you put weights instead of decoys, whatever it may be, kind of do what you're going to do on that opening day and figure it out.
Yep. No doubt.
That's one thing I always think about doing and I've never done, is trying to flip a kayak or canoe and just really, simulate what it would be like if I was out there and in the dark, just to get that experience. I haven't done it yet. I always say I'm going to, but I just haven't yet.
Yeah, I've tried to sink my canoe before, but see, like, I don't hunt a canoe in any water that is over my head. So like, there's never a spot where I couldn't at least get on relatively solid enough ground to, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be treading water in waders or whatever at that point. Like, and I purposely transit next to the shore. So like, I get it as close as I can. So in the event that I take a dump out of there, I just stand up and I'm in like waist deep water at the most, kind of thing.
Right. But yeah. So, and same, if you have a new blind on and you plan on taking your dog, they might not have very much space. So go and try and, make sure that they're comfortable as well.
No doubt.
No doubt. So that'll take me right into dogs and doing dog work. If you haven't been doing much, now's the time. I'd probably start working on some longer retrieves, making sure that, your dog's in shape and ready to be working in hot weather. And a lot of people in our group are, they talk training quite a bit, and, they're out there doing it, but a lot of the guys too, like you said, there's a lot going on. It's summertime. It's spending time with the family, whatever it may be. And some of the training gets put to the side. So, really time to start focusing in on your dog and making sure they're ready to go as well.
Yeah. Barton always talks about it. If your dog's been on the couch eating Fritos all summer, not getting work, you can't expect them, to perform at their best if you just take them right out into the field. So giving them time to work it, and, and it can still be hot this time of year. So even I think just sort of short, quick sessions just to kind of knock the rust off. And maybe you're not going to develop any new skills, but maybe you just kind of, refamming and just kind of sharpening some things that are, some of the things that the dog has down pat, and just kind of just sort of resharpening the skill set there. I think even short bits of training, if you haven't done any yet, are beneficial. And, I mean, like I said, it seems like summer is now dog training, like mecca, right? I mean, every time I turn around, that's all I see on social media is dog training, which is awesome. I mean, that's another way to prolong the season, but, also, not everybody runs a retriever that is like a high performing hunt trial, like elite athlete, and maybe it's a family pet that, can get it done, and, whatever, and you don't take the training aspect of it as seriously, still consider getting a few, a little bit of work in maybe just before the season goes. So, you'll be in good shape with the pup.
Yep. Last piece of equipment is, well, sort of decoys. If you haven't cleaned them yet, if you haven't water tested them to make sure they float, whatever it may be, get them out, check your decoys, check your rigs, check your stands for field decoys, make sure everything's working. One thing you don't want to do, especially goose decoys, when you get out into the field, and something that bothers me, I don't like doing it, but I have done it. If you don't have enough stands for your decoys, because you separate them when you get out there, and you carry everything out, and then you have to put the stakes in, and you don't have enough for each decoy, so you end up putting them on the ground. It doesn't bother me that bad. Done it, but just making sure all your equipment's in order, cleaned up, freshened up, whatever. If you need to put some new paint on them, now's the time to get doing that.
Yeah. I mean, for me with this one, I usually do a pretty good job at the end of the season of like taking inventory of what I got and what's broken and all that kind of stuff. But over the winter and then through the spring and, we get into like baseball and all these other things we got going on, my decoys just tend to migrate further and further into the garage and behind and underneath other things. So trust me, I've done this. It's terrible and not something I would recommend. That first opening morning in September goose, I'm trying to dig out goose decoys, and I got my wife's car in the garage. I got my canoe in the way. I got the kids' power wheel. I got my deck umbrella thrown on top of there. I got this in the way. I got bikes in the way, right? I mean, that is a pain in the neck to deal with at like 3 a.m. So at least get them to the point where you have them accessible. And, if you've got a shed or a dedicated area where you can keep your stuff organized, more power to you. That's not my setup. So I have to play a little garage Tetris to, get things squared away. So that's definitely something as far as decoy prep that I have to do to make sure I can get my stuff ready to go that first morning.
Yeah. Then you get everything out there and you're missing 2 heads off goose decoys. And then you have two bodies out there with no head, no stake, and you're trying to figure out what to do because the walk back to the vehicle's 700 yards or something. So
not ideal.
not ideal for sure. All right, man. I'd say the next one would be gun, ammo, shooting, all of the above. Get your gun out, make sure it's in good working order, make sure it's shooting, get out and shoot. Good time to shoot clays, kind of knock the rust off of that as well. If you can't get out and shoot, one thing to do is at least get the gun out and, practice shouldering it, practice swinging, make sure your bead is right where you want it to. Even if you're swinging, put it on a spot on your wall, whatever it may be. There's ways that you can practice and without actually getting out to a range and shooting. So just getting comfortable with that, making sure that the gun feels like it's a part of you. We did the shooting tips with Don Curry and, just becoming one with the gun to where you're comfortable and essentially everything is one fluid motion and, different weights on different guns, whatever it may be. So
yeah, the funny thing about shooting is, man, I would say next to dog training, shooting, patterning, and ammo talk has been the second most common thing I've seen in the off season this year. It seems like there's just a ton of that. And I think obviously a lot of that has to do with a lot of the new innovation that's taking place in that space and people are curious and all that kind of stuff, which is great. But like the first time you shoot that load should not be on opening morning, right? So do your best to try to get out and do some patterning. But on top of that, make sure you give the gun a good look over. I'm super guilty of this. Like I cleaned it at the end of the season and I just sort of assume that everything's good to go for the opening day. Get it out, function check, make sure everything's squared away, make sure your sights are on firm, your choke tubes in there good. Just like basic things that while we overlook them, can ruin your hunt the first day if you haven't, if the first time you look at it is after you've pulled it out of the case and you're like, oh crap, like where'd my front bead go? Or whatever the case might be. Where's the charging handle on my shotgun? Like the little piece fell out or something, So just a little bit of detail, it doesn't take a long time to do, but it'll definitely save a hunt for you.
Let me ask you this question.
Send it.
Did you put your plug back in yet from our conservation hunt?
I have not. It is currently unplugged.
Me neither.
I'm actually mildly concerned that I forget
here.
how to do it. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, it's a weird little contraption in there, but definitely that for something that has been bothering me for like 3 months now, I still haven't done it, but it's in the back of my mind. And I think this week I'm going to take care of that just because it's starting to get stressful. And as people know, regulations and laws freak me out, and I'm always trying to stay above. And the last thing I want to do is be caught in the field without a plug in my gun. So
you have been talking about this for a while.
I have.
I've heard you mention it several times.
So it needs to get taken care of, especially, one of our first big hunts is going to be October in Canada, which I'm going to hunt planning before then, but I couldn't imagine getting caught up there I don't know what would happen. But anyway, don't want to be in that boat. So it'll get taken care of this week.
Indeed. I need to get mine done too, for sure.
Guaranteed. Yep. I have one more thing. Do you have anything?
I think your last one's probably going to hit on what I would say at this point, but I might have one more, but go ahead.
Okay. All right. My last one is scouting / permission, and it warms my heart in the group every time someone posts up there that they just obtained permission on a new piece of property, because they're getting, they're putting the miles on the road and getting out there, knocking on doors, getting permission. They know that they have a spot to hunt this fall. And, sometimes I don't want to say it's good to scout this early for fields to lock down for like opening day purposes or anything like that. But that there's a potential, if you see birds, that they might be in that field come season, right? So we're not too far away to expect that to be too far-fetched. So if you're seeing birds hitting fields, go and ask. It might work out for you.
I can tell you, they may be in that field, they may not, but I can guarantee you one thing that could absolutely help in your benefit is if they're in a field today, there's likely that they're not going to go too far away over the next several weeks. They might hop fields, they might go to some other local farms, but if you get permission on one where they're at today, if they move off of that, it definitely helps if you can go to that other farmer and talking with them and say, yeah, I've got permission on Mr. Smith's farm as well. Maybe they're buddies, and maybe he'd be like, oh, well, if Bob's cool with you having permission on his place, then I'm sure it's fine and you can hunt my place too. That may happen. Or, who knows? Maybe they'll leave that farm. They'll go back to, they'll go to another place, and maybe they'll come back there. Or maybe somebody will be hunting the X and you can't get on it, but they've been hitting your field some too. So when they go to the X they get shot at, they're going to go somewhere else. Maybe they come to you, so I would never discourage someone from trying to get permission and forming a positive relationship with the landowner. Like I just don't see a downside at that at any point in the calendar year.
And it's very pro tip of the day. Ooh. It's very hard. It's very, very hard for a farmer who's baling hay. If you go and ask them, say, hey, can I have permission to hunt your property this year? And I have quite a bit of extra time or a couple free evenings this week. Can I help you throw some bays? Or bales of hay? Can I help you stack? Whatever it may be. That right there, even if they say, no, I don't need any help, they know that you're willing to help. And that goes a long, long way in a farmer's mind.
If I had a farm where they were on, then that was the X, even if he tells me no, I would still help him. And he still may tell me no after I'm done with that. But next year, maybe he'll say yes if I'm willing to help him again, right? I mean, like, sometimes you just got to earn trust from people, and that's a good way to do it. And actually, I'll tell you, I don't like to pat ourselves on the back too much, but I do think our episode that we did about gaining permission was one of our best and has some really good tips in there. So if you're new to this and you're worried about where you're going to hunt and you're thinking about knocking on someone's door, but you're nervous or you don't know what to say and all that kind of stuff, listen to that episode. There's a lot of good tips in there that'll help you. And I mean, at the end of the day, the worst they can say is no. So give it a shot and see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. And then going to, like you said, branching out from that first farmer. Hey, I was just helping Bob with throwing some bales for him. And he said, maybe stop over here and see if I can get permission from you to hunt some geese this year. If that right there is almost a lock, I'd like to be able to hunt this. And if you need help around the farm too, when you have 6 wagons full of square bales out there, whatever it may be, this is it's coming into a very busy time. They might be getting a second cut of hay off, and any help for a little permission to kill geese off that are tearing up their fields, man, I think it's a lock most of the time.
It's worth the time investment to try for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say along with that is, one of the bigger things that I've started using in the field is my binoculars, my optics. I use them a ton. Obviously, deer hunting when I'm hunting deer in September, October, November. I use them in the field a lot now too. When I'm waterfowl hunting, and I've had it where I pulled my binoculars out from past season, and like an eye cup was broken or something like that. I've got the Vortex binos, lifetime warranty. Send them back. They send them back to me fully repaired, refurbished. I've done that I think I've done it twice now just because I've beat on these things. And, so if you're an optics guy, make sure you get those out, your glass and fields and stuff like that. Make sure they're all squared away. And then sort of on top of that, I would say, if your truck is coming up on an inspection or coming up on an oil change or coming up on something where you may be out of pocket from your vehicle for a period of time, I always try to get that stuff knocked out ahead of time because I do not want to try to take up a Saturday or Sunday when I could be in the field because I got to take my truck to get something done on it. So if you got tires you got to do or just any of that kind of maintenance stuff that you can't do on your own, it might take a couple hours, try to get that stuff squared away and knocked out now. That way you can have your ride for the season and you'll be good to go.
I'm glad you brought up the binoculars because I actually need to send back a jacket from Sitka because I had the zipper so packed full of mud when I ripped it off. I bent it a little bit and having a slight issue with it. So I talked with them and they said, yeah, fill out the paperwork and send it back and we'll get you taken care of. So I need to do that before it starts getting chilly.
Yeah. Be neat.
Be pretty neat.
Yep. All right. What else you got? You got anything else?
Well, the scouting too. If you got, if you're looking at your phone or computer, whatever it may be, look for those little pockets of water, man. Look for those little pockets that are hidden back in the woods that might be holding wood ducks or mallards that are in between big lakes, whatever it may be. It might be a new hotspot for you.
I mean, I'll tell you, the ability to e-scout has improved by leaps and bounds just within the last couple of years. And the variety of apps that are out there and the tools available. If you don't have a membership to your favorite, scouting app or whatever of choice, definitely consider that. There's many that have a free trial week. There's many that have free trial versions where they'll have a base functionality for you to check out to see if it's worth you going for the subscription model. If you have not got on that train yet, definitely consider it because I just don't know how. It's one of those things where I don't know how we lived before cell phones. I don't know how we lived before these types of apps. To be able to pull up a landowner's information, name, general idea of property boundaries, things like that. It's so important. It's so critical and so helpful. If you're still unsure about that, don't wait any longer. Try it out. Try it out this fall for the first time, and you will literally. I promise you, you'll never go back.
And it goes even further, and I'll even go out with base map because it has, it has depth when you're talking water or land or whatever it may be. And if you find a spot in a lake that is shallow enough for birds to be feeding on, and then you're looking for a boat ramp, got you on lock, man. Definitely something to look into if you're not already. Yeah.
Yep. Great resources out there, great tools available to help make our jobs easier. So you no longer have to go to the refuge and post in the message forum and get everyone screaming at you and blah, 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 blah. You just take care of it yourself on the app of your choice or whatever, and you're good to go. So definitely take advantage of that stuff. All right, Dan, I think that's my preseason list, man. It's pretty basic, I think, but
it can be time consuming. Basic, but there's a lot to do there.
No doubt. And I mean, if this is your first season, maybe you're not thinking about all these things.
I forgot one that can ruin a hunt quicker than anything else. If your waders have been hanging or in your basement or in your garage for the last 8 months, put them on, go find some water, and make sure you're not going to have wet legs on opening morning.
Yeah. I mean, the price you'll pay for that is not quite as bad as it will be later in the year, but you will be happy that you take care of that sooner than later. That's for sure. Right. So no doubt. I mean, I honestly don't, even though I have breathable waders, I don't look forward to getting into my waders when it's like 90 degrees outside. I'm not a fan of that.
Oh, but something, get in a pool. If you're swimming or whatever, before you get in your waders.
Yep. No doubt. All right, man. You got anything else you want to add to our list here before we close out this week?
No, man, I'm pretty set, but I'm just thinking back, and 5 years has went really, really quick.
Oh, dude,
it seems like it just
flies
flew.
by, bro. I mean, it is what it is. It just goes by.
It is what it is. So go out, enjoy the outdoors. Try to get someone else involved.
Whoa!
Share the
trying
wealth.
To get all up in the fields right now?
Not in the fields. Just try and get a kid out. Try and get someone with a man bun. Take them out. Whatever it may be. Reach out and get a new hunting buddy.
We've talked about this too in the past, and this is kind of in the fields a little bit. But the early season is a great time to get your dad, your grandpa, anybody that's a little bit older that may have a hard time with the cold and stuff like that. As much as it's a good time for kids, it's also a good time for them to be able to get out there. And, usually fields aren't too bad yet. You can drive into a lot of them, help them get out into the field, things like that. Just great opportunities in the early season here before weather gets terrible to get anybody out in the field. So think about somebody that you might be able to take along that might not get too many hunts this season, and see if you can get them out in the field on a hunt.
I think my personal goal is to get my dad out this year. It's been a few years since he's been out. Got the shotguns. We're ready to go. I just need to.
I was going to say, that seems like an easy enough goal to accomplish.
Yeah. I don't know why he's refused the last couple of years. No, blah, blah, blah. Like, dude's retired. It's ready to go. I hope I turn him into a machine too. Just addicted to it. Yeah. But he'll be hard to get out of the archery woods. Yeah,
that's for sure. Well, it's all good. I mean, archery season ends right when it starts getting good anyway. So Anyway, all right, man. You got anything else, or maybe one last thing you want to hit this week before we wrap up?
I had something to say. I forgot though.
I'm sure as soon as we move on, you'll remember it.
Yeah, I might cut you off.
That's your move. Okay. Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up. But before we do, I do want to take a minute just to thank the sponsors of this week's episode: Gunner Kennels, 737 Duck and Goose Calls, Adrenaline, and Old Town. Thank you to them for their support of this week's episode, and also thank you to Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos that includes everything you need to take your 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com, sign up for the free preview module, and begin your training journey today. Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. One last thing, Dan?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to say, if you have found any of the episodes to be good or beneficial to you in any way, share it with one of your friends. Get more people involved. We just crossed a big milestone in downloads, and we love seeing it grow. So share it. Go over and hit go to iTunes, give us a 5-star and rating, and put a review up. And like you always say, it helps like-minded hunters find us. Yeah, just totally stealing my thunder on the outro. Bruh. There you go. There you go. Like I was saying, thank you for that. There you go. So share it wherever it may be. Doesn't need to be Facebook. It might be your buddies at the breakfast bar or whatever it might be. Share the word. Water cooler talk in the office. Water cooler talk. Mm-hmm. Get the name out. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, on that note, let's get out of here. All right, that does it for episode 147. Hopefully you are thinking through your preseason checklist, and if you haven't, you can work through the one that we talked about this week. If you're new to this show, head over to iTunes. You can leave us a 5-star rating and review. Like Dan said, it helps like-minded hunters just like you find our show. That's going to do it for this week. We'll be back together with you next week for a brand new episode. So until then, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.